Okay. All right. Well, 1 Samuel 20, chapter 27, we're going to look at 1 foot in and 1 foot out. So much of what we see in 1 Samuel repeats itself. There's things that happen again to the degree that we might think that, oh, we already read this. And so last week we looked at the repetition of David having the opportunity to take Saul's life. So he had a second chance at that. So tonight we're going to look at something that we might remember happened before. And it is that David, when he was running, ran to the Philistines. He ran out of Israel and into Philistia. And so now he's going to repeat that. Now, if you remember the first time that he did that, that's when he feigned insanity, when he pretended to be crazy, and they let him go because of that. It's going to be a different way of approaching it this time, but he's going to work a deal that he's able to remain there, even given his own little town, and set up pretty good. But we look at this and we're going to see that even though maybe some good things happen in it, it's probably not the thing that God had planned for him. He is frightened, and because of that, he's running. And he's going to run again to the Philistines for protection. And as a result of that, we're going to see that there's some good things happen, but also he's going to be confronted with some real problems as a result of that. And so beginning in chapter 27, verse 1, it says, "Then David said in his heart, 'Now I shall perish one day by the hand of Saul.'" Now, right away here we see a problem, right? See a problem with that. Where does he go wrong in this first sentence in the first verse of 1 Samuel?
God told him he was going to be king.
Yeah, God told him he was going to be king. So what we see first is, if he believes that he's going to perish from Saul, then what's he not believing? He's not believing what God had told him. Now, even before that, where does it seem this idea comes from? God spoke to him and said, "No, is that what happened?" No, that's what happened. Where does it seem to originate from?
Self-talk.
What do you say?
David said in his heart.
Said in his heart. Yeah, so this is David's heart. David's following David's heart. And so he isn't getting this as a message from God. This is what he himself has perceived. And again, as Kathy said, God told him he was going to be king, and yet he says, well, I'm going to perish at the hand of Saul. And so he obviously isn't believing what God has told him, and so he's going to come up with his own plan. Then David said in his heart, "Now I shall perish one day by the hand of Saul. There is nothing better for me than that I should escape to the land of the Philistines." And again, so the thought is it would be better for me to be in the land of the enemy than it would to be here in Israel itself. Then Saul will despair of seeking me any longer within the borders of Israel, and I shall escape out of his hand. So everything that he said there, is that a legitimate statement? So Saul won't be coming for me, and I'll get away, and I'll be living in Philistia. Was that true? Yeah, that's true. It is true. He is what he is doing here. We're going to really look at this tonight. He is acting prudent, and he's not acting faithful. And so when confronted with a problem, we can act with prudence, or we can act in faith, or even better than that, we can act with prudence and faith, right? There's nothing wrong with being prudent, doing things to make sure that you keep your family safe, and because that's what he's doing. That's a good thing. But when our prudence takes over and negates our faith, then we have a problem. And equally so, if we're operating completely on faith without any prudence, we're probably in a kind of a dangerous place too. And so David now is leaning into prudence. This is what's best for me. This is what's best for my people. This is what would be most safe for us. And so he arose and went over, and the 600 men who were with him, to Achish, the son of Maoch, king of Gath. So he is approaching the king of the Philistines. Verse 3 says, and David lived with Achish at Gath, he and his men, every man with his household, and David with his 2 wives, Ahinoam of Jezreel and Abigail of Carmel, Nabal's widow. Now, so sounds like a pretty good thing, doesn't it? He's a whole family, everybody, all our family, all our soldiers, all our servants, they all got to go with us, and we can move into Philistia, and everybody's safe. Even able to bring my 2 wives with me. So he really seems like this is working out really well for David. This is pretty convenient. And it says this then, and when it was told Saul that David had fled to Gath, he no longer sought him. Mission accomplished, right? Then David said to Achish, if I have found favor in your eyes, let a place be given me in one of the country towns, that I may dwell there. For why should your servant dwell in the royal city with you? So now he wants his own town. He wants his own place, community for him and his soldiers and his family to live. That's kind of a big request. But here's what it says. It says, so that day Achish gave him Ziklag. Therefore, Ziklag has belonged to the kings of Judah to this day. And so he gives them this town called Ziklag, and this is where they are living. And the number of the days that David lived in the country of the Philistines was 1 year and 4 months. Now David and his men went up and made raids against the Geshurites, the Girzites, and the Amalekites, for these were the inhabitants of the land from of old, as far as Shur to the land of Egypt. And so David is going out on these raids now, Now, why is this not going to be a problem for the king of Philistia? Yeah, that's their enemies too. This is the neighboring countries. So there's always tension between neighboring countries. So if David's taking care of that with his raiding parties, that's a good thing for Philistia. We don't have to worry about that because David's doing that. So David is actually there's a symbiotic relationship here. There's a benefit that they're receiving from David being in their country. David, of course, receiving the benefit of safety and protection because of the border wall, the borders between Israel and Philistia. But now they're engaging in these raids where they're going out and they're attacking these neighboring countries. And so for the king of Gath, this is a good thing. This is working out well for him. Plus, those countries also are countries that Israel has fought against. In fact, they are the countries that are the unconquered lands of the Promised Land. These are nations that were promised to Israel, and Israel never finished that battle. You remember when Joshua led the conquest of the Promised Land, and there was land that they never got, they never received because they didn't take that land. They didn't fight for that land. So here David now has resumed the conquest of the Promised Land. So not only is this beneficial to David in that there's security for him, not only is it beneficial to the king of Gath, who has this another arm of army to go out and deal with neighboring enemies, but it's also a benefit to Israel in the sense that Israel now will, as a result of this, eventually gain these lands back. He's fighting for Israel, even though he's fighting within Philistia for those nations. And David would strike the land and would leave neither men nor women alive, but would take away the sheep, the oxen, the donkeys, the camels, and the garments, and come back to Achish. When Achish asked, "Where have you made a raid today?" David would say, "Against the Negeb of Judah, or against the Negeb of the Jerahmeelites, or against the Negeb of the Kenites." And David would leave neither man or no woman alive to bring news to Gath, thinking, lest they should tell about us and say, so David has done. Such was his custom all the while he lived in the country of the Philistines. And Achish trusted David, thinking, he has made himself an utter stench to his people Israel. Therefore, he shall always be my servant. So what does David is deceitful here. David is dishonest. What is he saying? And he's using words that maybe we wouldn't recognize. But what does he say he's been doing? Did you pick up on who it is that he says he's attacking? Israel. He indicates that he's been attacking Israel. He's been on these raiding parties. He's been attacking Israel. And so from the king's perspective, he's like, oh, this is awesome. He's being a problem for them. And not only that, they're going to hate him. The people of Israel are going to hate David as a result of this. So the concern of David as a king is also being diminished by these actions of David. Now, how does David cover for this? How does David make sure they don't find out about this? He kills everybody. He doesn't bring anything back but the livestock. And so in doing that, there's no evidence. It's not known. The Philistines don't realize that what he's doing actually is taking care of the neighbors as opposed to Israel itself. Verse 13 then says, or there is no 13. Verse 28, chapter 28 then, really then brings home the problem that David has created here. Because in chapter 28, it says this, in those days the Philistines gathered their forces to war to fight against Israel, and Achish said to David, understand that you and your men are to go out with me in the army. David said to Achish, very well, you shall know what your servant can do. And Achish said to David, very well, I will make you my bodyguard for life. So where's David find himself now? He's now in a position where he's going to have to make a decision here. Either he's going to have to go to war against Israel alongside the Philistines, or he's going to have to, we're going to have to throw down, we're going to have to fight, we're going to have to run, we're going to have to get away from this. And then the second part of that indicates what? David is going to be what to the king of Gath? I can't tell what you're saying. Loyal, yes. He's going to be a servant to him. He's going to have to serve the king. You're going to be my bodyguard for life. There's this sense of ownership. And so David, in his shrewdness, in this working to try to protect himself, to do what he thinks is best for him, has kind of painted himself into a corner, put himself in a bad position, which we probably could have predicted. And so David now is going to reap the reward of that. And we're not going to get into that yet tonight.